Welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management, a weekly conversation with area leaders about how to persevere during uncertain times. Now here's your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times. You never know when that challenge might come up. Many times it has to do with weather. Sometimes it has to do with business development. Sometimes it has to do with a bridge being brought down by explosives. Well, that's what happens. Certainly a challenging time. And we have two guests on our program today, Kevin Zimmer and Lisa Moosman, who are both with the Kansas Department of Transportation. And it's going to be fun to talk about this. First time I had a chance to saw the bridge near Waukene get blown up, it's like, wow, that was a cool deal. But it did cause some interesting, I guess, planning and all that to go in to make sure that happened. We know what happens when you close down the interstate because of bad weather, but this was a whole different deal. So, Kevin, I want to start with you. How long has this been in the planning process to blow up a bridge over I-70?
Yeah, no, great question, Gary. So this bridge was quite a task for us. Through the years, it has been hit, maybe once, twice a year, et cetera. But something in 2024 happened here, and I'm not sure what it was, but this bridge got hit 7-8 times, just this year alone. And so,
what do you mean by hit? What do you mean by hit?
Yeah, so impacted. So this is a bridge that goes over I-70. It carries a local county road of Trego County. And so there's an underclearance of there. So if a load is carrying something that's too tall, they impact the underside of the bridge. And so sometimes it's just a little nick. Other times, as we saw this year twice, it was a pretty significant impact. And so, that culminated into us just having to eventually not only close down a lane of interstate because of one of the impacts, but then a second further large hit in July scrambled us to say, oh boy, this bridge is in dire need of being taken down just for the safety of I-70, the people driving underneath it. So that kind of all occurred during the month of July for us.
And that means you have to figure out a plan to make all of that happen.
Yes.
But before that, just brings up an interesting question. How many times are bridges hit? I know outside of Hayes, there was I'll say a big loader that hit a bridge that caused significant problems. But is that a common problem across the state?
I would say yes and no. This particular stretch, and we'll just kind of focus on this, interstate was built in the late 50s, early 1960s. And that's an older part of the interstate system across Kansas. And so, at the time, things were just built to a certain size, certain length, whatever. But then as time goes on, our loads, our traffic gets bigger, larger, et cetera. And so this happened to be, still legal size loads could go underneath this. But anytime you have a tall load, the carriers have to get a permit, and they're aware of this low clearance. But not everybody, I guess, pays attention to that. And that's where these impacts come on this particular bridge, because it was just an older bridge of narrow underclearance underneath it.
So you go and you say, okay, we got to take this bridge down. I'm sure you looked at other ways to manage this. Fix the bridge is one, put up more concrete, repair it, do all of that. I assume you went through all of that process. But it's a significant decision, for lack of a better word, a significant decision to say, hey, this bridge needs to be blown up.
Yeah, no, exactly. So what we do, we look at all those options. Again, the last 20 years that this bridge has been hit, and even before that, we've made little repairs here, little repairs there. It eventually got to the point here of these two big impacts saying, okay, enough's enough. We have spent enough money on this bridge. It's guaranteed to probably get hit again. And so, the decision to blow up this bridge, that's one option. The other option would have been to have to, bring it down in sections, to where you'd have to build some median crossovers, for example, and get traffic going head to head. And then, do it over a process of 2, 3, 4 weeks versus a 12 or 14-hour period. And we look at those options, the time impact, the financial impact, and, after talking with some, and we even consult with our contractors who are potentially going to bid this work, what is their preference? How fast can they realistically take this down? And once we had gathered all that information, it was pretty clear to us that, let's just get in there, do it quick, very, fast surgical remove, and we're done, versus a lengthy, drawn out, month-long process of nibbling away at this bridge.
Well,
with the added expense of crossovers.
Yeah, from what I can tell, you can, in the explosion, it all came down in little chunks and little pieces, and people can go online and find the video of this bridge being brought down. It's pretty impressive. I'm going to switch over to Lisa here because Lisa now has the fun opportunity of trying to explain this to how many thousands of motorists were diverted on this, because the diversion wasn't just take old Highway 40. Some of us may have figured the back way around this, but the diversion for most motorists it wasn't a simple diversion. When did you start and how did you come up with the communication plans for everybody, Lisa?
We probably started about a month in advance with the communications, getting our talking points developed. Kevin did a great job of inviting in the Highway Patrol and local law enforcement to notify them of our plans and let them know, what we were doing and how this would be affecting their communities. On an average day, the traffic count is around 13,000 on that stretch of interstate. Luckily, we did communicate that out enough that people were able to reroute their travel. We didn't have near that many coming through just based on our own staff observations of the folks who were running the detour. So that helped alleviate it. But yeah, it just took a lot of communication and coordination and letting people know, via radio, social media, TV, any sort of news media that we could contact to help us get the word out. We utilized.
Were you surprised the number of people that after all of that didn't know and just drove up and said, hey, what the heck? Why do I have to drive this far out of the way? Were you surprised?
Yeah, we still had people contacting our headquarters in Topeka the day of the closure asking, is this really happening? Is this for real? This is going on? And yes, this is happening. This is for real. This is going on. So, we can get it out as much as we can, but we still have the few stragglers that didn't know, but didn't seem to be too affected by it.
Lisa, you run communications for Northwest Kansas for the DOT out here, and there's all the newer highway signs that do a lot or do an improved job of communicating. Who is the one that does all of that? Because there's all sorts of things that you guys put in there to help remind drivers to be safe. Are you the one that runs that?
I don't, but it is kind of a coordinated team effort with our district maintenance engineer, our area engineers like Kevin, and then folks out of Topeka headquarters who come up with our safety messaging. So just kind of depending on what the messaging needs to be on that signs kind of leads to who coordinates it.
Okay. Hold on, Lisa, because I want to ask, we're going to morph into a little bit of winter driving because that's, believe it or not, right around the corner. But Kevin, back to the bridge and blowing that up. Who pulled the lever to blow that up? Did you have a big lever, Kevin, that was over at the side and you said, count down just like they do, and you pull the lever and there it goes?
Yeah, so it's not quite like you're explaining like you see in the cartoons, right? Where you push down a big lever into a box. It's a little more sophisticated than that. But yeah, so really there was three main contractors involved with this job. Sillison and Sons, they're out of Keachai. They did the traffic control portion for us along with us. Spore Land Development was the guy with all the big iron, crushing everything. But then to your question, who actually blew this up? That was a third contractor. And his name just loses me here for the second. But yeah, he was the one that, Burkamp Construction. They were the ones that came out the day before to drill the holes. And then once we had interstate closed, he actually, filled it with all the blasting powder. So the fuse was in his hand. And he's the guy that got to click the button.
How far away were you when this happened, Kevin?
So there was just kind of a safety radius, if you will, let's call it that, of about 1,500 feet. So any personnel within that 1,500 foot radius, it was, let's all stand back. There was a kind of a series of safety sirens, that went off, whistles. Everybody knew what it was. We had a safety meeting in advance, and then so that was about the closest you could be.
Was it a surprise, the detonation and the way it sounded and all the response to the explosion?
Well, so I have seen these before, actually. We blew up the bridge in Russell County over the sinkhole a number of years back, and then we also use it in controlled blasting for limestone, on some of our road constructions. So I've seen it before, but I loved asking the ones on site who had never seen it before, what did you think? And they're like, wow, yeah, just the concussion onto your chest and just the sudden visualization of it. That they said it was a highlight of my career, So yeah, it's a really neat opportunity actually to be that close.
Having watched it on the videos, you see all of a sudden there's a bridge, and about 2 seconds later there's no bridge.
Yep.
And that's when the real work began. I know you'd planned to close down interstate for 24 hours. It actually went faster than that. How did the response to that was really pretty amazing, how you got that entire bridge, the rest of the bridge, the pieces of the bridge off interstate and get it reopened so quick.
Yeah. And that's where I have to give a kudos to the contractors again. He showed up with the necessary manpower, the machinery to do this. And we advertise it as a 24-hour closure, because there's always the unexpected, whatever. And we had to frame it that way in our contract to the contractors, so they knew an expectation of how much time they had to do this project. And so, yeah, that's the way it was advertised. But then, in talking with the contractor, once we had pre-construction meetings and all the meetings with local law enforcement, et cetera, it was more a realistic thing to where we're going to close it down early in the morning and hopefully be off the road before it's dark. So, and that happened. So I think total duration was about a 14-hour period. Worked wonderfully. So absolutely, the contractor, once it's on the ground, that's him. And so that's the guy I'm giving the kudos to.
Well, it's great to see it happen so quick. Sometimes things don't always happen as quickly as you would like. This one was faster than that. Lisa, how did you go about confirming to everybody the road was open and getting that turned around?
Well, I was out on the blast site when the bridge came down, and then immediately headed back into the office and just stayed in contact with our staff there on site. They'd provide me updates, provide me photos that I could be posting, just to kind of keep the public informed. And we worked together as a team to let people know.
What did you think of the blast? I didn't ask you that.
It was pretty cool. I haven't been at KDOT as long to be able to have seen something like that. So that was the first time I've ever seen anything like that happen. So yeah, definitely a highlight so far of my job.
So this is a longer term question. How many bridges in Kansas are out there that this needs to happen to? Because is there a plan to, one, rebuild this one? And two, are there others that this same thing need? We talk about the infrastructure around the country. Is this something we're going to see? Because the last one in our area has been 20 years ago. We talked about in 2004 in the bridge over near Russell. But is this something that may happen more often? Kevin?
Yeah, so I could kind of speak to that. Let's see. Obviously our infrastructure is aging. When the interstate was built, et cetera, these bridges, roads are getting old. And so can't do them all at once, time, money doesn't allow. And so obviously all these bridges get reviewed annually or twice a year. And just from that, you start picking away at making a priority list, which is the worst of the worst, and start getting those programmed and scoped out for either replacement or not. And I guess circling back to your first question there, so this particular bridge at this time, KDOT is planning on replacing it. There was a fair amount of outreach with the locals that live in the area, the farmers, and also the county commission of Trego County. And what we heard from them is they desire this bridge to be replaced. And so at this time, that's our path moving forward. Unlike the emergency aspect of removing it, we're not seeing this as an emergency to replace it. This is just going to go into our normal programming schedule, to start developing plans, buying right away, et cetera, if it does come to that. So
What's
it
the
may be
estimated cost of that, Kevin? What's the estimated cost of replacing a bridge?
for a new bridge, something like this. I'm just throwing a dart here. I'm going to say maybe about $3.5 million.
Okay, so it's not just a simple little project to go out there and blow up a bridge and put a new one up.
No, definitely not. Because the new bridge, obviously, what we're going to build would be bigger, taller, probably longer. So that may involve some utility relocation, some right-of-way acquisitions, because this probably won't fit in the same footprint of what is out there currently, what was out there.
One of the things that probably just move up the road a little bit on the west side of Hayes and the bypass, there's a bridge project going on right over there. And you're kind of managing that in a little different fashion, in a way of kind of taking the old bridge and keeping people on that and navigating, not around, but using that for navigation until the new bridge is in place.
Yes.
Will any explosives takes place out there when you get finished with that one?
I wish, because I'd be able to stand right here outside my front door and watch it, from the office. But no, now that one will be a much more of a precise removal. So yeah, obviously what you see now going on is the western half of the new bridge. So that's going to be constructed, and as soon as that part is done, traffic will be moved over onto it, which then allows the demolition of the existing bridge. And so that'll be a controlled demolition, what we call it, just brought down because they're in such close proximity to each other.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. Lisa, Kevin, hold on. I want to talk about winter weather coming up and kind of sometimes we don't really thank the people enough to get out there and keep I-70 and keep our other roads as open as they can be during some really bad weather. I want to talk a little bit about the planning that goes back into that. Our guests today are from the Department of Transportation, talk about challenging times, not only blowing up a bridge, but managing the winter months in western Kansas. Back with more after this.
Since 1776, the United States of America continues to stand tall. It's been tested before, many times. Through grit and the ability to move forward, we create better tomorrows. We help our clients live their best lives to and through retirement. We make it easier. Thank you, Kansas. Worth Wealth Management, enhancing lives and strengthening families.
Welcome back to Forward Ever, leading in challenging times. Our guests today are from the Department of Transportation, and it's Kevin Zimmer and Lisa Moosman. Both of them involved, Lisa on the communication side, Kevin involved with the engineering side of things. So going into the break, we talked about winter weather. I'm sure the planning is already in place for that. But first off, I'll go to Kevin. Thanks to you and the team for all the work that you kind of put in place. How many people are involved with keeping our roads in northwest Kansas clear during really what can be horrendous weather conditions?
Yes. So I don't have an exact account, but if you kind of just picture the northwest Kansas, each county, we have a maintenance yard there, a sub area. And that the staffing varies, whether or not it's on I-70 versus some of the 2-lane roads, of the counties that don't see I-70 going through it. As a rough estimate, each office has between 4 to, let's say, eight employees. And so that allows us, along with our equipment, fleet, to be able to, as long as everyone's, healthy, they're there. Sometimes we have to rely on, temporary staff even to run a 24-hour shift, 2 12-hour shifts that if the storm requires it, we can just keep going and going. Yep.
Well, it takes a lot of work to do that. Lisa, have you learned to run a truck yet so that you can jump in if somebody can't make it?
They keep threatening to make me do that, but luckily I have not acquired my CDL yet, so I get to stay on the sidelines.
You may want not to acquire that. That could be one of those things. But tell us about the communication, because one of the things about winter storms, a little different than, say, our thunderstorms that go through in the summer, is that in winter you kind of have some planning that takes in place where you can start doing that. You really don't have a surprise blizzard because they start moving across from the west, usually across the state. What is your communication plan for this year? Does it differ from past years?
Not really. We kind of tend to follow the same plan year to year. We do a lot of coordination with the National Weather Service. They're very good about sending us situation reports on what they're expecting as far as, snow amounts, timing. We just kind of coordinate with them to get the information and then proceed to craft our messaging and plan our staffing around, the information that we've received. Do a lot of information sharing on social media, on our Facebook and our Twitter page. And then any closures that come up during the storm, we obviously communicate that out to our news media.
Talk about your webpage, though. You have a webpage that has maps that shows what's open, what's closed. It really goes across the state. If you have somebody that's traveling, a lot of times people in our area, they're traveling Denver, Kansas City, Wichita. That map does an impressive job of really showing what's open and what's not open. Where do people go to get that? Because now's a good time to start maybe taking a look at that. So when you get up in the morning, I have to be in Kansas City, there's a map and where you go.
Oh, absolutely. That map is, use it for a lot more than just snow and ice closures. It's the candrive.gov website. And on that has so much information about construction projects, planned construction projects, closures, rest area information. And there also is a mobile app that you can utilize go to your app store, the CanDrive app, and use it on your cell phone when you're traveling. But yeah, for example, coming up tomorrow, the big K-State game in Manhattan, and we have a big construction project in Junction City. So travelers can utilize that to check on traffic speeds, closures, find a different route around rather than taking I-70.
I drove through that just yesterday, in fact, and it is going to be a challenge because of all of the wildcats. I see we have one wildcat on our call right here. You may want to just leave early by a day and get there, right?
Yeah.
Kevin may want to follow you because you know the shortcut to get around all that construction. But construction has to happen. Those of us that travel and get a chance to drive in other states really appreciate the work that is done in Kansas. All of our roads aren't perfect, but we have great roads for the most part in Kansas, and some other states not so much. And being able to have those good roads take good people. So, Kevin, thank you for being on the call. Lisa, thanks for being on the call. But more so, thank you and your team for taking care of the roads for us. So, Kevin, anything else? Looks like you wanted to add something about driving slower or something like that.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, that's always been my message. Folks, drive attentive, actually. Set that cell phone down, and that way you can make sure you're getting to where you're at. Nice and safe for everybody.
Well, there's nothing worse than somebody not paying attention, and then it closes the road down for everybody, and then everybody gets backed up along the interstate. And we've had that happen a few times here recently where everybody just gets backed up, and that's no fun. And it's not good for anybody out there, including the people who are involved in the accident. So be safe out there. Again, Kevin, Lisa, thanks for being on the call today. Thanks for being on Forward Ever. It's brought to you by Worth Wealth Management, where you can live with confidence. I'm Gary Shorman.
Thanks for joining us for Forward Ever, Leading in Challenging Times, presented by Worth Wealth Management. Join us right here next week for another episode with host Gary Shorman. Until then, remember to move forward ever, backward never.